Montana. And they were in the Big Hole. My dad was a rancher, and so he was a ranch hand, and they spent time in Dillon. They actually were in Wisdom. I think they moved into Dillon for the winter because winters, I hear, are tough in Wisdom. And so they moved into Dillon in the winter. And you know, I've always, my whole growing up, all my years, have heard all these great stories about Montana and the things they did in Montana. And I always felt like I was a little bit slighted because I wasn't born, and so I didn't ever get to experience Montana. And so as a kid, country music ingrained in my head, and it was that Merle Haggard song, Big City, Turn Me Loose, Set Me Free, somewhere in Montana, in the middle of Montana. And so perhaps now is the time that I'm going to be set free and be somewhere in the middle of Montana, and Butte's it. I don't know. So it's, you know, I've had a lot of, you know, good opportunities to think about Montana as a place to be. I want to beg your forgiveness if I talk about MTU, because I'm actually at another MTU, and so if I happen to, and Brock has actually did this a couple of times today, saying that I was at Montana Tech, but he did this and this at Montana Tech, where I'm actually been at Michigan Tech, and so I'll beg your forgiveness there. But so why Montana Tech? So I guess for me, the thing that has been very apparent from the outset, from the time a colleague said, you know, you should maybe look at this job. It kind of seems like it's in line with what you want to do in your career, and I know that you've thought about being a president or a chancellor at some point, and so on. And so, why Montana Tech? The student success is, I mean, foremost in my head, has always been ingrained in my head since day one, since I started in higher education. And it's apparent to me that you all have a deep commitment to student success. And so that, for one, is one reason why. Being at a STEM institution, so 2003, moved to Houghton, Michigan, which, if you're not familiar, there's this part of Michigan, and then there's this part of Michigan that's 6 above Wisconsin on the shores of Lake Superior. Took a job there in 2003, and we took our kids there. Our daughter was starting kindergarten, son was in 5th grade, and said, we'll go for 3 years and we'll reevaluate it. Well, here we are 16 years later. So double the time that I spent it in the other institution. And for me to have the opportunity to work at a STEM institution, or an institution like Montana Tech, has been just, it's been amazing. You know, we've been able to focus on, I said, the types of institutions we attract smart students, we attract driven students, we attract students that know how to work hard, and that's a plus. And because not all institutions are like that these days. I spent a lot of time with my colleagues in Michigan, and we meet a couple of times, we meet every semester, but throughout the year, and it's, you know, they always lament that they always ask me when I'm leaving, so because they want to be able to deal with the good stuff, and that's the type of institutions where we are, is we get to deal with the good stuff. So the other thing I guess that I would say is I feel like, you know, I've had good opportunities to be at institutions that I think prepare me for this role. I spent the early years of my career at Salt Lake Community College in Salt Lake City. It was an institution of about 11,000 students, and when I left there it was around 20,000 students. And the focus for the state was to move a lot of what were previously vo-tech schools or technical colleges, to have them also broaden their role of offering Associate of Science and Arts degrees to transfer to 4-year institutions. And so I spent 8 years there. Went from there to the University of Utah, which is a large Research One university. Went there in recruitment and had the opportunity to actually build a department from the ground up with our Orientation and New Student Programs office, and had the good fortune actually of reporting both to academic affairs, the Associate VP for Academic Affairs, as well as Student Affairs, and worked with my colleagues to really build a program that oriented over 5,000 students every year to the university. And then for the past almost 16 years, have been at Michigan Tech, where we've fortunate to do a lot of really great things and have really moved the university forward. We had enrollment issues when I first started there, and we needed to create a stronger presence and a stronger market for who we were, and we didn't do that great a job telling our story about who we were. And so thinking about how we've done things, and over time we've increased our enrollment, we've increased our student success rates, increased our fundraising, increased, you know, just a lot of really good things that have helped to move the university forward. Have invested a lot of time in infrastructure, have invested time in thinking about how we had different academic thrusts and how we kind of took what was, You know, we were Michigan College of Mines when we started, and we evolved into Michigan Technological University, and we had other iterations of our name throughout there, but how we have worked to be progressive and keep the university relevant and moving forward, obviously. So why now? I guess the one thing that I would say, there's so many good things going on here, and I kind of had surmised that from my research coming into this, but when you get foot on campus, there are a lot of things that come out, obviously, over the course of it, even just in 24 hours, right? So, but just the things that you learn from a campus, from being on campus, and you know, there's from your special focus that the state has given you as a special focus institution. I think that there are obviously opportunities to do more with that. Your #1 value interest institution in the country with ROI and the types of things that the Montana Tech graduates are going off to do. And those things are things that we need to be proud of and to celebrate. And so there are things of that nature. I think that the strategic plan focus for the institution really helps to drive it forward. The distinctive research opportunities that you have through your different research centers with metallurgical minerals and materials, the Bureau of Mines having that here, the computational science, the pieces that you have, and I always boast about, you know, how cool is it that you get to be at an institution that has their own ski hill or their own golf course? You guys have a mine. I mean, how many campuses can say we have a mine on campus? Really, you know? So I think that there are so many unique features that make Montana Tech what it is. I think it's obvious that there's a lot of good things going on, and the special beauty that goes with a place like this. And you know, I think that there have probably been times when Butte got a bad rap over the years, but you get out and you get to see what the natural beauty of this place is, and the revitalization that's going on downtown, and the importance of this institution to the community, and the community to the institution. I mean, I'm in a similar situation back at home, and so I think that there's definitely a lot of exciting things happening here at Montana Tech, and I think that the future is definitely bright for the institution. Fundraising success. You guys have had really good success with fundraising lately. You go around and look at some of the new buildings. I got to spend some time with the current chancellor yesterday wandering and seeing the things that are in the works, and it's obvious that you've got alums and others that are willing to invest back in it, but what you all have built tells me that you're also very concentrated and focused on student success. So what next? So one of the things that's critically important to me and has been critically important to my success is having somebody that actually supports me in those endeavors. And so my wife is here. And so I'm gonna out her, but it's like, you know, I look at all the things that I've been able to do over my career, and it's because I've had somebody that was there to support me when we said, oh, guess what, honey, we're gonna move to Houghton, Michigan. I'm like, really, where's that, you know? But I think it's critical to have somebody that you can rely on that supports you not only, I mean, you have a team of people around you on campus, and the idea is to have people that support you and can work with you and so on, but it's also been critically important to me to have a family that does that as well. And so one of the things that I guess I would be asking, so what are you like? You know, what would you be like as the chancellor? And so I'm a person that is very much focused on fairness. I try to be compassionate and optimistic about challenges that we have and figure out how we work through those together. I'm team focused. I think I scared the search committee actually when we were in Bozeman, because they said, what are you like? And I said, I'm brutally honest and blunt. And they were kind of aghast, I think. But what you see with less is what you get. It's just, that's who I am. That's in my roots. It's what I believe in. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I try to have what is, I guess the proper terms these days are a growth mindset. So seeing challenges as opportunities and thinking about how you how you identify what the reality is and identify the challenges, but also figure out what the opportunities that lie in those. There's the CEO of Marriott Corporation talks about, I think it's a philosophy that I really try to espouse, but he talks about that my role as a CEO is to take care of our people, and our people take care of our guests, and the business takes care of itself. And I think that's kind of an idea that I think that as campuses, we really should think about how we do that, because we're all in this together, right? I mean, we recruit students together, we help them to be successful together, we produce graduates that go out, and every time that they're successful, they add value to this university. Every time that our faculty are able to put out cutting-edge research, that adds value, and so it's that distinction. The other thing that I would say that's been kind of foundational for me in my whole career, well, early on, it came out in '90, so it's been but is Ernest Boyer was the president of the Carnegie Foundation for Teaching, and he came out with a book in 1990 that's called Campus Life in Search of Community. And he talks about campuses should be purposeful in what they do. They should be just, open, disciplined, caring, and celebratory. And so I've always used that kind of as a reflection to kind of I don't get up and look at it every morning, but when I make decisions, oftentimes I'll think, is this really purposeful? Is this just? Is this, is this something that is going to move us forward? And so I've used those principles as a leader. So one of the things I think that is, forgive me, I've been talking a lot today, but one of the things I guess that is critical is thinking about what that vision is for us going forward. And so it's really about establishing a bold vision of science, engineering, science education. What does that look like going forth into the 21st century? I mean, we know from the stuff that you read that, research has been done that there's, 65% of the jobs that people will be in 2030, they don't even exist today. So how do we make sure that we're relevant going forward, and how do you have a vision to make sure that you're relevant going forward? And so I think that we've, I guess the thing that I would say is thinking about not necessarily worrying about what's next, but willing to jump ahead. How do we jump ahead and get that mindset of how do we jump ahead rather than worrying about, okay, what's next? We've had a lot of conversations this fall at my institution back home about the fourth industrial revolution and how we position ourselves to be internationally recognized and relevant in the fourth industrial revolution and what that looks like. And so we had a series of conversations over the course of the fall semester, and out of that came 9 different initiatives that are focused on sustainability, that are focused on advanced manufacturing, that are focused on health and quality of life, that are focused on ethics, integrity, and focused on diversity and inclusion. And so a number of different initiatives that are now going to move us forward as an institution. So thinking about those pieces, I think that we're at a point, obviously I knew this coming in here, but there's talking about where we are with enrollment, and we've had some enrollment challenges, and so how do we figure out where to go next and what does that look like? And it's developing a robust and comprehensive enrollment plan and thinking about the markets that we're in and the markets that we're not in, and the places that we go and the places that we don't go, and figuring out, what can we do to enhance the places where we go, and what can we do to break into market penetration into other areas. And it's looking at different partnerships that we might form with K-12 programs. It's looking at partnerships with industry and corporations and those kinds of things. And how do we get more people thinking about what we do? How do we get into the schools to get kids thinking about the relevance of science, the relevance of engineering, and the things that they can do? And I've been fortunate at my own institution, because we had a program existing for a long time, our summer youth programs. This has been in place since the 70s. But we do what we call a hands-on science roadshow, where we take our students out into schools and we've been on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. at the National Science Fair Symposium. We've done, and we've got companies that actually pay for us to go do these things because they see what we're doing. And so we also have, my provost has led an initiative to develop science curriculum that we give to junior high schools, basically, to help educate about the STEM field. So some of the things, some of those kinds of things, I think that we have an opportunity with Highlands College being embedded into Montana Tech that a lot of institutions don't have, which is agility. And so it's, you know, you can turn on a dime pretty quickly. It's with the 2-year programs that are out there. And so I think looking at those opportunities and what we can do to continue to embrace the pieces that are there with us at Highlands. So it's, you know, thinking about the enrollment strategies, thinking about so it's the getting the students here, right? And it's the comprehensive enrollment strategies, and it's, you know, it's rather I know that you all buy names, and that's what most institutions do is, you know, you buy ACT or SAT lists of students that are interested in this. And so figuring out what it is that we do along those lines to get more students interested and make sure that the messaging is out there. But it's then, once you get them there, then it's what do we do to support them and ensure that they're successful? Because getting them here costs a lot, but keeping them here, we don't want to lose them, obviously. And so thinking about what student success looks like, and it's you know, it's having intentional and conversations about what it is that makes them happy, what it is that they need to be supported, what it is that why they're going home on the weekends and not staying here, and, you know, things like that. And it's mental health is obviously pervasive on a lot of campuses, and so thinking about how we make sure that we're addressing health and well-being for our students and to afford them to be successful. You have the ACE, which is your Center for Excellence, Academic Center for Excellence, and so things along those lines, supplemental instruction, learning centers, of course, but what are the other pieces that we need to add to make sure that our students are finding success? What are the pieces that complement what they're doing in the classroom or in the lab space? Research is obviously one of the things that's critical for all of us in these endeavors, and thinking about how we value the research that we have on campus and amplify what we're doing, obviously, to bring in more research dollars, but providing opportunities for our students to be involved in research is critically important. And I know that about 80% of the students here at Montana Tech are involved in research. And so thinking about how we amplify those opportunities and opportunities for creative works and scholarship. Thinking about fields of revenue, like how do we, you know, it's not only, I mean, here you get about half of your budget comes from tuition, half of your budget comes from appropriation. What are the other revenue streams that we can bring in? Fundraising is obviously critically important. Partnerships, how do we form different partnerships with corporations and other organizations to help us bring in different funding streams? We know the types of industries that are out there that want to hire our students or hire our graduates. There's going to come a time when we're going to have to, those corporations and groups are going to have to start committing to provide more resources to help us be successful, I think, going forward. It's the shape of things to come. So building new partnerships, and one of the things that I've had to experience, you know, in my new role at the university is really taking Michigan Tech beyond Houghton, Michigan. And so looking at how we do things with K-12 in different areas, looking at industry and how we partner, and also more involvement with our community colleges to get those students coming to the institution. And so then it's creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. What does that look like? You know, how do we advocate for students? How do we make sure that we're all, that we support and advocate for different perspectives of thought and ideas and ethnic origins, cultures, and so on? But how do we make sure that the campus is welcoming of all groups? And one of the things that I think is really special about Butte is the mix of people that you have is amazing. It's almost like a melting pot of America, really, when you start looking at all the cultures and the different people that came here for different reasons with mining and such. So, so then ensuring sustained organizational growth. And I'm going to just run through this quickly, but you know, thinking about student success and the revenue, and I know you have performance-based funding. through the state. And so, you know, people that are moving on to being successful towards graduation and retention, and then actually graduating. So you get rewarded for those performance, but also leveraging what I would call the courageous ideas of our staff and faculty to help us move the institution forward. How do we get everybody around the table saying, okay, so this is where we are now. We can snap our fingers, where do we want to be in 10 years? What does Montana Tech look like in 25 years? Our board at the institution said, you know, you guys keep talking about the strategic plan, which is 5 years out. We want to push you to think bigger and broader than that. So we have a portrait. We did in 2010, we did Portrait 2035, and then we did Portrait 2045. And so it really pushed you to think about, what is it going to look like? I mean, what does housing look like? I mean, what is technology? How does technology take over and make us think differently about what we're doing? Embracing innovation, looking at new and different academic models, things that are going to keep us, are going to position us to be a phenomenal institution that you are, add value to what we are, but help us also to be relevant from now until eternity, right? I mean, we want to make sure that we're around for a long time, and you got a long history, and there's so many good things going on here. As education delivery changes, as dynamics of our economy change, the types of jobs change, and the types of careers that we have to prepare individuals for, we've got to be able to be probably more flexible than we've ever been. I mean, higher ed is, everything you read is like, how are you going to position yourselves to be at that point? And so I think that, you know, there's so many great things going here. And I will say that, just kind of in concluding, because I've gone over my time, but thinking about what's most critical really is about the people. And I think that any campus that, like you all, I know that it's about the people that make the experience, that your commitment to students, your commitment to this institution to move it forward, and how we do that together as a team is really critical. And so I look forward to the opportunity to hopefully be here with you, and that hopefully we're able to, you know, do that together. I'm proud of the things that I've been able to accomplish in my career, and really have had a very profound and phenomenal experience at the institution where I am now, just because it's just, we've done a lot of really great things, from, you know, being able to increase our student population, committed to student success, increase our fundraising, and really the experiences that our students have, and seeing that pride and affinity that ekes out of our alums when they come back, and the things that they're so proud of. And I know it's similarly here. So I will end on that note and throw myself open to questions.
Thanks very much, Dr. Cook. And if you do have a question, if you don't mind, please come up and use the mic and introduce yourself as you ask a question. Thank you.
Oh, good, we're done.
Good afternoon. My name is Shari Fotz, and I'm currently in the Healthcare Informatics Department, and I'm moving to the Business Information Department. And I have two questions for you. They're unrelated. One is from the Faculty Senate perspective, and another is from a Faculty Senate member who is not able to attend, so asked me to ask a question. So I'll start with the latter one first. You mentioned opportunities that we have, but we are, of course, facing some challenges. What are your thoughts on addressing a $2 million budget shortfall? Is my first question. And my one from the Faculty Senate view is, what is your views on shared governance?
So I will answer this shortfall one first, because that one seems the easiest, right? So I think that, you know, I'm aware of the situation, and I know where, you know, that you've all been going through some prioritization of programs and such. And so I think that for me coming in, I obviously would be new to this, and I know that there are a lot of people on campus that have been involved with figuring this out since 2017, or having conversations about different pieces. And so I would, I guess, for that, I would rely on our team and the recommendations that come from the group. I'm not going to just, if I have the liberty, I wouldn't just sign off and say, yeah, done, but to really take time to absorb those and think about it and make sure that we are doing what I think is best for the institution going forward. I've been on my own campus. We've had instances where we had $7 million shortfall, and we've had issues where we had to resolve, reprioritize, rethink things. And so working with the team of people that that we have here in place is how I work towards resolving that. As far as shared governance goes, we're all the whole is the sum of the parts, right? And so we have to figure out, for me, I realize that there are times when you have to make decisions that not everybody's going to be happy, but at the end of the day, I think if I am a chancellor that is transparent and communicate and bring people to the table and have a listening ear, I think that there are always going to be times when not everybody's going to be happy, but if you've done your due diligence to try to bring everybody together and really weigh all the different discussions and options, I think that it helps to build strength of the institution. And I really think that it's for the work that we do, it's about having us invested and having a good team of people that you rely on and trust to give you the insider information about what's going on. But we also have to make sure that we're involved in listening and being willing to have conversations, obviously. So, thank you. I've been warned about you, so I'm going to step back here.
Thank you, Doctor. I applaud you for looking forward to 25 years. I have a pretty good idea where I'll be in 25 years. I wonder, in that vision, what part intercollegiate athletics play?
Okay. So I just had the athletics group was actually here in the room before you all came in, and so I got to spend a little bit of time with them. And I've had athletics reported to me for 6 or 7 years, and so I think that like I told them, is that the athletics piece, the things that we do that get recognition outside of the university are often the front porch of what people see of us. And so it's what our faculty do that, when they're presenting papers at national symposiums or world symposiums or such, that people go, wow, look at what's going on at Montana Tech, or there's some new research discovery here. But also, a lot of what people see are what our teams are doing and what our athletes do on the road, and it's not always about necessarily winning, but it's how they treat people at a hotel, or how, there are a bunch of kids there, you're there for a basketball tournament, and there are a bunch of kids there that are for a basketball tournament, and your basketball players sit down with those kids or out in the parking lot shooting hoops with them, So I think we have to, the value of an intercollegiate athletics program is it helps to create pride and affinity for the institution. It's also, there can be a showcase for what the institution does. They're a pride factor. I know that your football team I just actually became aware of this afternoon, but has one of the top grade point averages. And I was boasting about our women's basketball team having the top grade point average in the country for women's basketball. And then I hear football here has the second highest GPA. So I'm like, that's awesome. And people don't, I think it breaks down the stereotype of what people think of athletes, because obviously our student athletes are students first and then athletes. So it's critically important, and it's essential in my mind. And I like going to all this stuff. So. You guys going to meet in the middle?
Yeah, probably. I'm Bob Worley, a local citizen here, born and raised in Butte, Montana. I went to school here at Montana Tech. I'm not a graduate, but I do have a son and a daughter-in-law that are both graduates and have done quite well here at the school, or from the school. My concern is that it looks like they're trying, or I don't know who they is, but where they want to head this college as far as narrowing up the availability of things that students might come in here and study, such right now it's engineering, mining, and petroleum, but we have some wider things like computer science things and things that, and a nursing program that has done quite well here. I want to know what your thoughts are about programs that you would like to see stay here with the university.
Okay. So one of the things that we had conversation with a number of the different groups that have been through here today is thinking about, you know, where we are and what we're known for. I mean, obviously, much like Michigan Tech, you started as the College of Mines, and then you've evolved into, you know, offering engineering and being one of the, you know, top engineering schools for petroleum and metallurgical and you know, some of those programs that is, and so thinking about what are the other things that you can add to the institution that help keep it relevant and bring relevance and also bring students. And as you know, I know with the nursing program being relatively new here, and there's, you know, you've got substantial enrollment there, and so are there other health related opportunities for you to have degrees that are, and it's not going to go away from where we are with kind of STEM focus, but thinking about other opportunities to broaden the reach a little bit. And maybe it's, I mean, at my own institution, we have done that pretty successfully over the last 10 or so years, and have been moving in that direction, because you do have to diversify if you're going to continue to be relevant, and think about what it is you diversify. And so if I was to be here, I would want us to have conversations thinking about what some of those opportunities are. Is it more health-related fields? Is it more high-tech, computer-related types of things? Is it, I mean, as we all know, what's happening with technology and the fourth industrial revolution and what's next. So thinking about opportunities to do that, but also thinking about opportunities to take what we have, you know, what else should we be adding with our business programs? What else should we be adding with our industrial hygiene programs that we have here? And what are the new engineering pieces that are evolving? I mean, maybe we should have a degree that's all just artificial intelligence and engineering. What does that look like? I mean, you know, I had a colleague that I've been working with some expanding some programs that we're looking at down in Traverse City, talking about informatics and a lot of the computer data stuff, and they're talking about a program called ethical hacking. I'm like, there's such a thing as ethical hacking. That's what we're going to offer that. We're going to be proud of that, right? So, but you know, we have to get out of the box of where we've been and try to think about how we diversify what it is we do, but also make sure that we're grounded in our roots of where we came from.
Yeah, my name's Doug Coe. I'm a recently retired faculty member and also administrator here at Montana Tech. And I'm interested in having you give an example of an initiative that you led in your current position or recent positions at Michigan Tech, which involved the city of Houghton, okay, in a significant way that was mutually beneficial to both institutions.
Okay. So early on in my tenure at the university, the city I had a friend of ours that I don't even remember how we met, but she was really good at getting me involved in different things. And the city was investigating how to do more things downtown to revitalize our downtown area. And so there were probably 8 or so storefronts that were either vacant or boarded up, or didn't really present a good image. And of course, if you're trying to attract students, you want to have a vibrant downtown so that students come in and students and their parents come in and go, wow, this is a cool place, I want to explore more. And so she got me involved with it was called the Houghton Downtown Guidance Team. And so what we were involved in doing is getting grant money to restore a lot of the buildings in the 70s. They came in and covered up the cool old sandstone architecture and made it, I mean, some of them were just hideous, to be very frank. And so they did these facade grants where basically got money to restore, I think we did maybe 6 the first year, and then they did more throughout. And so the downtown now, and the other piece that I will say that helped revitalize downtown, and this is not always the answer, but it can help, is we had a Christian bookstore that was there when I first got there, and one of our alums who was in oil and gas and retired at like 45, moved back to the area and opened a brewery. And the Christian bookstore moved out and the brewery moved in, and that helped to revitalize things a little bit. So, but I think it's things like that. I mean, I think that it's essential as an institution that we partner with the city and the community, and we have a economic development, Michigan economic development group, but our institution has been very involved with the Smart Zone, which it started about the time that I got there, and I think there have been 20 plus companies that started as a result of that innovation incubator opportunities, and 700 plus jobs that have been created from the Smart Zone as a result. And so looking at things like that, our students, you know, even though we get 300 inches of snow, average is 280 inches, but I always say 300 because that's about what it feels like right now. But we have our students as alums, they come there, and it's like we have to kick them out the door sometimes. It's like, you guys need to move, and they're like, I want to be here. I wish that I could start a company. And I tell them, you know, go work for a company, but keep doing the research that you're doing, and keep doing the innovation and those pieces, and come back here and, you know, get 2 or 3 of your friends and come back here and start your company, because it's very affordable to do it, and I'm guessing it's similar here in Butte. So those kinds of opportunities. We want young, and there was just an article in our Michigan Tech magazine talking about young alums that have realized that, you know, it's quality of life, and we're going to go back and do. And so they featured, I think, 6 different couples that had come back to the area to do a variety of different things. So creating those vibrant opportunities is essential.
Professor Alicia Cox is the one who's done the most work for this, but I'm Mary McLaughlin, Geological Engineering. You were just talking about research. Tech is in the midst of proposing a couple new PhD programs, and your thoughts on that, would you mind sharing them with us? And
sure.
I think it's important for us to hear.
Yeah, I think that I say yes, go for it. I mean, I think that in talking to the Chancellor this morning, that was one of the questions that I asked him, because I spent time out on the website looking at the commissioner's office, obviously, and the degree proposals that are out there, and notice, you know, there's some bachelor's programs, and there's some that feel like they've been there for a while, and it's like, okay, what's moving? Are we moving forward on these? How do we know what's relevant and what's not? But I think that, you know, you've got your one PhD program in metallurgical now, and it seems like it makes sense for us as an institution to figure out what are the next 2 that make the most sense for us to grow. It's because there's value that comes from having PhD level programs, and not only in the research, but also being able to provide the faculty options and so on with PhD students. And so I think that I would be a very strong supporter of thinking about how we do that, not only with PhDs, but also with master's programs, and thinking about how because I think we shouldn't be short-sighted in just thinking about how we grow our undergraduate population. We need to think about how we also grow our graduate student population, and what's the capacity that we have to do that. I'm being very honest, I don't know what the capacity is right now, but thinking about how we do that in a very intentional way that makes sense for the university. I have not, I've not been involved other than to say, yes, let's go do it, you know, but I've had very close working relationships. I've said that, you know, that because of the size of institution we are, when we've had we've celebrated good times together, but we've also kind of came to the table and figured out how we move through challenging times together with our, so we had what was our executive team, which is basically the cabinet, which is the president and the vice presidents, but we also had an extended group that we would meet with every about 6 weeks in a more kind of a 3-hour meeting with, and that included deans and like my associate VPs when I was the vice president for student affairs and advancement. So it'd be like my dean of students, my associate VP for advancement, and my associate VP for enrollment. But working kind of shoulder to shoulder with the deans to figure out how we're, you know, if we're going to have to scale back, what is it we're going to, are we going to, do we just want to do across the board 3% cut? Do we want to, you know, do we want to be focused on how we do it strategically? And, you know, maybe there's a program that hasn't really, it's been undersubscribed forever and we keep holding it on, and maybe it's a point where we, rather than have to have everybody feel the brunt of it, take one. And so, you know, and obviously it's depending on what is going on at the institution at the time and where your programs are and what it is you need to do. But I think that for us as an institution, having one PhD program is great. Having 3 would be even better. And so thinking about how we do that and what makes the most sense for Montana Tech going forward.
I also kind of apologize for my questions, also somebody else's, and I missed the faculty one this morning.
You don't need to apologize.
So it may have already been asked, and for this group it may not be that important, but for the faculty on campus it really is. And it's really about your experience with promotion and tenure. And I haven't looked through detail your resume, but have you been in a department head or dean position where you're promoting people? And generally, what's your philosophy, or what do you think about promotion and tenure and how you evaluate, promote faculty?
Right. So, to be totally honest, I've not. I mean, I've not been a department head. I've not been a dean. I've not been a provost, and so I've not had that type of involvement. But I do know, you know, I know pretty well what the process looks like, at least on our own campus, and I'm familiar with it. I also knew what it looked like at the University of Utah, and I think it's definitely something that we all value and embrace, obviously, as an institution. So thinking about, and I know the Chancellor is the final signature, and so I think that for me, my success is really dependent upon surrounding myself with good people that I know and trust, and to help us all move the institution forward as a team. And so for me, when it comes to promotion and tenure, it's really reliant on the colleagues and peers in the department that obviously evaluate and give feedback, and then the department chairs, the dean, and the provost. And obviously, I'm going to take it seriously and pay attention to it, and we'll study it and familiarize myself. The one part that I really, that I know that occurs that I'm not privy to, obviously, is that I don't get to see those files. And I'm always just kind of blown away at how proud I am when I hear my colleagues that get promotion or that get promoted, and I've tried to always make sure that I acknowledge those that I know, and you know, celebrate with them the fact that they've been promoted. But I actually look forward to the opportunity to be able to be in a situation where I get all those stacks of binders in my office and say, okay, you got this amount of time to go through them, because I think that it helps you to be able to tell the story even better as a leader of the institution when I'm on the road raising money, or when I'm in the community talking to the chamber, or when I'm at a recruiting event in Kalispell. I can talk about as I've said, that one of the things that has been really heartwarming and kind of exciting to me as being the Vice President for Student Affairs and Advancement was, I always tell our students, it's so awesome that I get to go on the road and talk to our alumni about all the cutting edge activities that you're involved in, the research project that you just did, or you traveling abroad and having a summer in Estonia, what that was like. So I get to share that with the alums. But when I'm out having lunch with the retired VP from Exxon, I can talk about how he came to Michigan Tech because we had a ski hill. How did you get here? How did you find out about Michigan Tech from Chicago? Well, I was looking at places that I could do engineering, get away from my parents, and had a ski hill. It's like I found Houghton, Michigan. I came to Houghton, Michigan, and that's why he came there. You know, and he went off to have this very successful career in, you know, in oil and gas, obviously. And so it's really about being able to share, and I think that having the advantage of being able to see all those files really helps you to be an informed champion for what's going on campus, and helps you to be even prouder of your faculty. I keep waiting for a question from my wife, so it's like she'll ask the hard one probably.
Hi, my name is Catherine Zodra. I'm in the Environmental Engineering Department. So Montana Tech has about 35% of the student body is women, and it's even lower if you look at the engineering fields. So I'm wondering, how would you, what would you do to increase the participation of women in engineering and STEM fields in general?
Yep. Okay. So very valid question on the minds of all of us that are at institutions that have a high STEM focus, and I think that, you know, it's. There are things that we've done that have worked pretty well, and there are little things that you do that have an impact. And I mentioned earlier our summer youth program. So we have a Women in Engineering program that happens every summer, and it's very competitive for women to get in. And I'll talk to our women students on campus that are successful, and just like, you think, wow, how did you end up at Michigan Tech? They'll be from, you know, Ohio or somewhere, and it will be because of they came to WIE, and they had opportunities to rub shoulders with our female faculty members that helped them to see Michigan Tech as an option. And so things like that. We have our SWE chapter has been involved with us with recruiting efforts. They write notes to our accepted students to talk about, what it's like to be a woman at Michigan Tech. We've had specific, very targeted recruiting efforts to women to come to the university. We've bought names for many years. Every student that took the ACT that was a female interested in engineering, we buy those names to get the word out, and they're going to be all across the country. But it's multifaceted. Whatever you do, when you're looking for a special demographic, I mean, it's similar to what we do when we're working to recruit underrepresented minorities. You have to figure out every option that's out there. And so thinking about opportunities like that, we have a program that's called our Leading Scholars Program, where it's basically students get a full ride scholarship. So it's competition, they do an essay and so on. And about half of those students usually end up being women on campus. The interesting thing always to me is when you look at the Student Leadership Awards and different, you look at the leaders of our organizations on our campus anyway, there are a lot more women that are in those leadership roles than there are men. And I don't know if because women are willing to say, yep, I'm gonna take it on and do it. Our daughter is a junior at Michigan Tech, and I'm like, sit on your hands, quit volunteering for everything. But I think that there's, it's definitely something that's front and foremost on our minds, and I think that we have to have opportunities, and we have to have opportunities for students to see themselves there. It's about also having alumni that will help us will be involved and help with recruiting efforts, and maybe we have these Scholars of Excellence kind of segmented markets where we identify the more high-achieving students and invite them to special events, and so we'll have women alumni come help us at those events that talk about their experiences and so on. So those are some ideas. Nothing earth-shattering, probably, but some of the ways that we've been able to do some of those pieces.
I've got a question for you. Chair's privilege here, Chair of the Research Advisory Committee, but I know you'll turn this around because you do have the big mindset. But in a couple minutes, what are the missing pieces for you? You've got so many different experiences, and you have so much to bring to the table. But is there anything that you feel like you might be nervous about, or that
I think the thing that and I mentioned this in an earlier, and it wasn't you, Brock, that asked the question. I can't remember who it was, but I think that one of the things for me, and I've had this question asked a couple of times. Well, you've never been, you've never been in the role of being the department chair or the dean or the provost, and so how are you going to relate to faculty? And so one of the things that I would probably work to overcompensate on is spending time with faculty and making sure that I know and understand what your needs are, and thinking about how we position the institution, not only for today, but let's position the institution for 2030. Let's make sure that we're doing things right today, so that we don't have to worry about what it looks like when things when we get down there. And obviously, we adjust as we go, right? I mean, we're organic institutions, and I mean, it takes us a while sometimes to adjust, but I think that I would really want to have conversations with our faculty and our make sure that we're thinking about what is, if we're gonna scale back on some programs, but what are we willing to ramp up on other places where we need to grow, and what are those opportunities, and what does that look like? And so I think that for me, I know and understand student affairs and what it makes to, I think, create a successful environment that helps our students to be successful here and helps them, prepares them to lead as leaders in a global technological world. I think that I know and understand alumni relations pretty well. I understand what kinds of things. I think one of the things that I've not heard as much about, but it seems like there might be more opportunities for us to really reach out and partner with foundations and corporations to have them be more involved with us. And I'm pretty sure there are opportunities to do more with the community of Butte. I think that it seems like there's a lot of things percolating out there, but what are the other things that we can do that help us all rise together, right? Because we're all committed to this endeavor here, and we want to make sure that our community is committed to us, and so we all have to work together to figure out how we do all of that. I think I don't know if you want me to. Do you want me to close, or you want me to?
I think so. We're right about.
So one of the things that I have kind of lived by this philosophy of really it's about making a difference, and how do we make a difference? And I always say, and my staff will look at me, but it's about making a difference in the lives of those that make a difference in the lives of others, because that's what we do. We make a difference while they're here, so that we're preparing them to go out and be leaders and engaged citizens and people that are just good, hardworking, dedicated, committed. They're the leaders, the healers, the innovators, the problem solvers, the difference makers is what you guys use those terms all the time. And so thinking about how it is that we as an institution come together to set a vision of where we're going to go, where is it we are now, and where do we want to be, and how do we get there together, and as a team of people that are committed to making a difference in those lives, what are the steps that we need to articulate to make sure that we're there and we're relevant and we're producing a very strong, educated, purposeful workforce that is meeting the needs of the world, meeting the needs of the nation, and at the end of the day, meeting the needs of Montana and our local community. So things that we can all do to thrive together. So. Thank you.